Could China beat the EU in a non-nuclear conflict? China on its own? I don't think so, no. I do think that I do think that China is more competent than Russia, but like massively so. But I think that the EU, like of the EU forces together, I think they would be able to pull through. That might be closer though. That might be closer. Yeah. Doesn't China have very little actual war experience? Yeah, they kind of don't. What wars has China been in? I don't remember the last major conflict they've been in, where they've really been tested, you know? Of course, there was the Chinese Civil War, obviously. They fought Tibet in 1950. How many people died? A few thousand? This isn't a real... We're looking for something that would, like, test their modern military capabilities. The Korean War, but that's so far back. What, here, wait, let's go from the modern era down, okay? China-India skirmishes, no. Standoff, no. The Mali War, which I know nothing about. Oh my fucking god, what's happening here? The forces of France, Mali, China, Benin, Ghana, Cape Verde, Gambia, Ghana, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Ivory Coast, Liberia, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Senegal, Togo, Chad, Burundi, Gabon, South Africa, Rwanda, Tanzania, Uganda, Germany, versus the heroes of the story, the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, Ansar al-Sharia, and Jamaat Nasr al-Islam wal Muslimin. Okay, ISIS, gotcha. I didn't realize this was still happening. I think I just like read something about this fight. I didn't realize it was still happening. 10 years? Can they just stop? How many people have died? Okay, most of the people involved have had like 1 or 2 people dead. There's constant war in Africa. Yeah, I know that. Operation Ocean's Shield against the Somali pirates. Victory. Number of Somali pirate attacks reduced dramatically. Woo! Oh, look, NATO's involved in this one. The Somali pirates are pretty bad dudes. It's okay to celebrate victory against them. The War on Terror. Yeah, okay. How about a real war? NATO and Russia? Nobody likes the Somali pirates. Literally nobody likes them. Seriously. The Somali pirates, I think, were kind of like a unique political force in that basically nobody sided with them. Like, there are governments who are, you know, not the ISIS, but like Al-Qaeda, you know, the Taliban, like they've had like kind of state involvement, you know? The Somali pirates, just nobody fucking liked them. They were poor. Yeah, and they were assholes. Not to say that they weren't you know, a product of like colonial, you know, power or whatever. Just Sino-Vietnamese conflicts, temporary Chinese occupations, and the Sino-Vietnamese War. How many people? Here we go. This is a real conflict. 42 to 57,000 killed, so many and so many wounded. Okay, yeah. I like how we have the Chinese, Vietnamese, and Western estimates for all the death counts, because like they're all like making shit up. The Chinese say they lost 7,000 people. The Vietnamese say the Chinese lost 48,000 people. Yeah. Vaush, think about this. Ha! Yes! Exactly! Who's really the bad guy here, huh? Oh, wow. Okay. So you've got the police, the district attorney, the courts, the judge, and the federal government all against one rapist serial killer? Who's really the bad guy here? Yeah, the plucky underdog, exactly. So how gay did China do in this conflict? Was this a real test of their logistical and mechanical capabilities? Was this a real test for the Chinese military? Yeah, they got fucked. This is too far back. It's true, like, China has changed a lot since 1979. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, if their last real test was in 1979, nearly like 50 years ago, I don't think you can say the Chinese military has been tested. I guess we just have to see by declaring war on China. Okay, I'm obviously not a vet, but I do know vets. And from what I've heard, the thing that like makes a good military isn't so much experience. Obviously, you want officers with experience, but what I've heard a lot of it is like expectation. If you have like a reasonable chain of command where the officers are given realistic goals to like manage and act through and succeed in, then you can have like an operationally effective military. Whereas if you have like a bunch of like touted up fascist officials who have 17 medals pinned to their chest, who are like, ah, yes, simply capture this depot 60 miles into enemy territory and we'll pick you up, you know. Or like, if basically, if like, are the officers above you people who like are with you? Okay, okay, it's really, are your officers with service or with management? That's the question. Do you know what I mean? Do you get what I mean when I say that? Like, is your officer like some political kiss ass who's just like looking to pin 50 medals on their chest, and like everything that they know about military like operational, you know, like capabilities comes right out of like the fucking red book, where they're like saluting every like paragraph they read, and they're like oh yes, glorious, you know, advocate for Marxism-Leninism should have no trouble capturing territory from dirty, you know, Slavic, yeah, blah, 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 you know, whatever. It's just highly ideological, highly illegal, as opposed to people who actually, like, give a shit. Officers aren't as big of a role as you think. NCOs and logistics are what win wars. Well, obviously logistics too, but like all that stuff, like the ability for logistics to keep up with the movement of troops is determined in large part by, like, officers directing those troops, right? Like, it's way easier to plan out logistics when you have a realistic, like, set of expectations for your soldiers and how far they can go and how quickly they can move and what they can realistically do, you know? Basically, I guess the broader thing is, like, the more arrogant your officers are, the worse things are going to pan out, if that makes any sense. Like, to give an example, how quickly did we take over Iraq in 2003? Like, Iraq 2003 was a shit show, but didn't we, like, we took over them in, like, no time at all. It was, like, a very clean sweep. We, basically, like, as fucked as that invasion was, we just, like, we went in, we put up a tent, we expanded the territory, put up a tent, expanded, blah, 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 and then, like, we had it, you know? Those two are incomparable. I'm not meaning to... the only point I'm trying to make is that given the military, the U.S. military being relatively competent, even in our quagmires, we still have, like, a... there's still kind of, like, a beat-by-beat plan for, like, handling things that gets carried out more effectively than you see, like, this flailing being done by the Russian army. This is literally the shock and awe doctrine. American military doctrine, because we tend to fight numerically and technologically inferior opponents, is to massively overwhelm them with way too... because we have a lot of equipment, we have a lot of money, so deploy 10 times as much equipment and as many people as you need, and just overwhelm them. Get it done with as quickly as possible to minimize the damage done to our own forces, and realistically also to theirs. Another benefit of the shock and awe doctrine is that it causes enemy soldiers to desert, and it does make the fighting last less long. Apparently over 150 people, or 150,000 people on the Iraqi side already deserted by this point. And that's part of the idea. Yeah, it's a very basic doctrine. It's been done, like, throughout all of human history. Like, charge with massive forces to break their lines. Like, do it as quick as you can. Mop up afterwards, yeah. This is a very effective doctrine. It does not tell you how to occupy a country full of insurgents for 20 years, though. That's the problem. Very effective at one thing, but that one thing that it's effective at is not the thing we've been doing lately. And it's very ineffective at handling what we have been dealing with. Operation Desert Storm was 100% like Western hegemony, keep the oil prices down, yeehaw, yeehaw. I'm not denying that. I will say that as long as an invasion is happening anyway, I think this shock and awe doctrine generally leads to fewer casualties overall. Because the idea is that if you send fewer troops and you let the fighting drag out, not only do you take casualties, but you give the enemy the impression that there's value in fighting, which encourages them to keep fighting. The goal, the idea is you break them so quickly and so, like, overwhelmingly that you only have to do the fighting for a couple of days or weeks at most, and then after that, it's like most of them are just fucking fleeing to the mountains, which means they get to live. You know, it's kind of like I guess it's kind of like if you're like getting in a bar fight with somebody and there's like a bunch of dudes and you're like a super cool martial arts badass guy, it might be better to just like break one of their arms right away and hope the rest of them like fuck off than trying to draw it out into some kind of like back and forth escalating violence thing where they just continuously get more and more hurt, you know? I don't know if I'm explaining it very well. Yeah. Is that what Putin tried? It is what Putin tried, but it doesn't work with the Russian army because they're weak and we're strong. If the strategy... So, but you can see right now, right? The casualties in the Ukrainian war are mounting up massively because the combat is protracted, you know? If the fighting had literally been over in 3 days as they'd taken Kiev, and that had been it, that would have been the fewest casualties. Obviously, I don't support the Ukrainian war in any fashion, so I'm glad that Ukraine's been given the chance to fight back. But if your goal is to minimize losses, and that's it, I do think that just being super overwhelming and decisive tends to reduce casualties. Isn't that the logic a lot of Tankies tried to use with Ukraine? Yes, but they did the descriptive, prescriptive thing. Even if you acknowledge that a decisive, quick attack to break morale and overcome them and win might lead to fewer casualties, that doesn't mean the other side should just surrender. Like, just because trying to break them quickly and being over with it tends to end the conflict quickly does not mean the other side should just give in or whatever. That's ridiculous. Also, it's worth pointing out that the Russian army never even got close to establishing the shock and awe doctrine. They couldn't even establish air superiority. We had air superiority over Iraq like 8 seconds after we arrived. Every single fight between us and the Iraqi forces was so unfairly and unreasonably skewed in our favor that it was a joke. Like Russia never even got close to being able to deploy that doctrine in Ukraine. They pretended they could by marching 1,000 tanks over to Kiev, and then all of them ran out of fuel and just fucking collapsed on the road because they were taking single lane roads in occupied territory where all you had to do was blow up the front and the back vehicle and then kill everyone in between and none of them could move or do anything, you know? Like, okay, how can a country defend itself against such an onslaught? You can't. Fairness has nothing to do with it. If the United States leads a coalition army to take you down, that's it. Like, at that point, like, the best thing you can do, like, realistically, the best thing that you can do is, like, negotiate the terms of your loss, you know? That's it, right? Like, that's a pragmatic way of thinking about it, you know? The only way you can meaningfully beat back an empire like America is through insurgency, but that's not the same as maintaining a state army and presence. That's a different thing. Yes, the insurgency route is like the long-term strat, you know? If US hegemony has taught me anything, it's that destroying a country is easy and, like, changing a country is hard, you know? Like, destroying a country is just a matter of physics, you know? A certain amount of lead and explosive material will do the job anywhere on Earth. Changing something about a country is unimaginably difficult, which is why sociology is the hardest of the hard sciences.